Michael Rezendes is a Pulitzer-Prize winning journalist with the Associated Press. He was part of the spotlight team at the Boston Globe that helped reveal sexual abuse inside the Catholic Church in the States. And he joins me now on the set. Michael, thanks so much for being here with us today. What are your thoughts on the sheer number of victims that's been revealed here in France in this report?
Well, first of all, the numbers are tragic, and they're very painful, and they're very shocking. Nevertheless, they're the same as what we've seen in the United States, in Australia, in Germany, and many other countries. I think what we're seeing is that clergy sexual abuse in the Catholic Church is all over the world, is present wherever the Catholic Church has a presence.
Why is that, do you think? What might the root causes of this abuse be?
Well, it's a very good question, and I think part of it is in the fundamental structure of the Catholic Church. The clergy is an all-male secret society, and that in and of itself invites all kinds of problems. The Church has also been very reluctant to address the issue over the decades. Furthermore, the clergy has no women, of course. And I think all of these add up to a problem and a cause of clergy sex abuse.
Your research, your work in this with the Spotlight team was over 20 years ago. This report's coming out in France today. Why so long?
Well, usually it takes a particular scandal to trigger an investigation. It takes, most important of all, it takes victims who are willing to step forward to tell their stories, even though that's a very painful process, and to demand that someone take action. It's the same in every country. And at the Spotlight team in Boston 20 years ago, we started investigating one priest, one. And we soon learned that there might be a half a dozen, and we were just honestly blown away by that possibility. Soon we learned and reported there were 70. And today, in the Boston Archdiocese alone, that number is 250. It is the same all over the world. It's the same wherever the Catholic Church has a presence.
And do we also see what you saw again in Boston, this shuffling around of predator priests, this cover-up at a higher level in other countries?
Yes, the pattern of cover-up is the same. The depravity is the same. The criminality is the same, and the cover-up is the same. The shuffling of priests who are discovered to be abusive, the shuffling from them from one parish to another to hide their abuse, this is the pattern all over the world.
As far as we know, is this abuse still happening today?
I'd say, of course, it's still happening, because I think fundamentally the Church has been unable to address it. I will say that in certain places, like the United States, where basically the news media and prosecutors have shined a light on this phenomenon, the abuse has been reduced. But how long will that last? How long will that last when the fundamental reasons have not been addressed?
Do you think Pope Francis said he wants to make this a priority? He said that already 3 years ago. Is the Vatican doing enough? Is what happened with this report enough?
I don't think the Vatican is doing enough. I'm not sure the Vatican is really capable of doing enough. Pope Francis has instituted a new system for investigating abuse by bishops and cover-ups by bishops. However, it's still an inside game. It's still bishops investigating other bishops, bishops investigating their brother bishops. Until there is significant and meaningful outside oversight, I don't see things changing very much.
What about the victims? Is this acknowledgement of guilt from the Church, perhaps again what you saw in Boston, is that enough for them to help them move on?
I think it's a start, but I think what they want to see is real action, real fundamental change to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. And I think they're still waiting to hear that.
What other kinds of compensation might there be? Do we talk about a financial compensation in this particular case to help a victim of this kind of abuse?
Sure, I think financial compensation is appropriate. Many times the lives of victims are ruined, frankly. They have trouble growing up. They have trouble getting a job. They have trouble keeping a marriage together. They often have substance abuse problems. Sure, I think a financial settlement is appropriate.
France is still a traditionally Catholic country. For any of our viewers who might still be practicing Catholics, those who take part in church, what does this say about their faith and the future of the Catholic Church?
Well, it says that their faith is in an institution that is fundamentally flawed in tragic and very grievous ways, and needs to be changed and needs to be healed.
So what can people do to make sure this kind of thing never happens to their own children?
I think they can insist that their bishops take measures to prevent clergy sex abuse in their particular diocese. I think they can insist that their parish priests take measures to make sure this doesn't happen. There are preventative measures that many dioceses have adopted, often, by the way, not out of the goodness of their hearts, but at the behest of insurers. Still, I think parents in particular have to be very alert, very aware, not leave their children alone with a priest, and demand that, as I said, the particular parish, the diocese take action to prevent clergy sexual abuse.
And given what you were saying earlier about what some would call the archaic institutions of the church, the fact that there are no women priests, that priests still have to be celibate, do you feel that there is a future for the Catholic Church, or is it a dying institution?
Well, I feel that until these fundamental questions are addressed, I mean, what I think is discouraging for most victims is the church is refusing to address the celibacy issue and is refusing to address the issue of having women in the clergy. They won't even discuss it. And I do think that these are part of the root cause of clergy sexual abuse. So I think it's discouraging that the church is not willing to take a look at what many believe are the real causes of this phenomenon.
Michael, thank you so much for coming in to speak to us here on France 24. Michael Rezendes, thanks so much again, a Pulitzer-Prize winning journalist, for his work uncovering sexual abuse in the Catholic Church in the States. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.